calls me home. Here in the power of Christ, I'll stand.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Hunot. Thank you for joining me on Rock On. Rock On is based on Jesus' words in Matthew 7:24, where he says those that hear the word of God and apply it to their life are like those who built their house on the rock. And that rock is Jesus Christ. Rock On is this opportunity for people to come and boldly share their journey to this relationship with Christ. And I'm so happy to have here today April Picolet. Thanks for being here, April.
Thank you for inviting me.
April, you're from Illinois, right? You grew up there?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I lived in Madison, Illinois. So,
two-parent home?
Two-parent home.
Yeah.
My dad did not want children, and my mom did, and my mom became pregnant with me, and then had my brother. And my dad was mentally ill. So that was a lot of eggshell walking, and at the age of 6, my brother got cancer, leukemia, and he died at the age of, I messed up.
Well, you were 6 and he was 3.
Yes.
and I'm so sorry. I mean, that has to be devastating to lose a sibling at any age, but particularly when you're 6 and you don't know much about life. It must have had a really rough effect on you and on your mom and your home life.
My mom was trying to go to school to give us a better life, and my dad, he just stayed at home and did a lot of drugs. And so at the age of 6, I got sexually abused by a family member. And my life at age 9, when my brother passed, became pretty sexual. At age 11, I had sex, and by age 14, I was pregnant with my first one, and through 14 and 20, I had 4 kids, and between that, I was doing drugs and was in an abusive relationship with was my ex-husband, and got hooked on meth, and I started beating one of my children, one of my sons, and I had a lot of anger in me, and I chose to leave him, and I got a felony 4, and through that, I became a stripper.
At about the age 21. And that man that you married, he was considerably older, like a friend of your father's.
He was 11 years older than me.
And you were young, and so the physical abuse started with him, and then, like you said, with one of your children, that started for you, the abuse with him, because maybe in part the hurt towards men and the anger and the frustration and then the drugs and everything that started.
I had a lot of anger. I'd never had a father. My father mentally abused me. There was a few times he pushed me against a wall, told me he was going to kill me. He grew pot in the basement. He was in the KKK. And my mom was working, just trying to provide.
And going through depression from the loss of her son, and just not able to be there for you as much as you probably needed.
Yeah, she was working like 16-hour shifts.
Yeah, and your dad didn't want kids, and so you felt all that, and then it, like you said, progressed into a life of drinking and sexuality at a young age and children. So by the time you're 21, you had a, did the addiction to the meth start before the dancing?
No, that was around 17. He was my husband was a drug dealer, and I actually went to jail for a felony 4 over his drugs. So I had a little bit of the meth for about a year and a half, and then I believe that God saved me from getting me pregnant again, and I stopped. And at 21, that went into, I wouldn't do meth, but I would do cocaine and ecstasy. I was a drug dealer. I had sex parties. I was getting into photos. I was looking towards getting into porn. I've been with tons of men, women. I've been raped as a dancer. Got in another abusive situation. So,
You brave lady. She is. So I know that also resulted into a lot of hurt for your children too, and the things that they experienced, and obviously just the one thing compounding the other, and the difficulty of having the relationships but not having the stable home life, and then it escalating. And now, how long did you dance?
I danced for 4 years.
For 4 years, and now you have 6 children now, and you've been married for 11 years to the same man.
Going on 11.
11 years, and now, so at this time, a lot of bad things are happening, as you've kind of summarized for us, giving us an idea of the depth of how dark things are getting. Now your oldest daughter, now you had some relatives that would help out with your kids and things like that, and you had your oldest daughter had an opportunity through another relative to actually go to church at one point.
Yes, she when I was a dancer, my cousin Connie, she would take them to church. My life was unstable, and it was just a safe place. So my daughter wanted to get baptized, and she came to me, and Connie came to me, and I was a dancer, so I was like, I'm not gonna go, and they's like, just, can you come to church? And I said, okay. And my oldest one got baptized, and so that was the experience.
But the place didn't burn down. I know the first time I went into church, our hands are sweating, it's like, had you, in your upbringing at all, had any experience with the church or with God or anything that was positive or negative either way?
I was raised Catholic, Baptist, and Pentecostal, and so it was very confusing for me, because when I went to Catholic church, I couldn't go up and get communion. I have a learning disability, so I couldn't read. And then I would go to the Pentecostal, and they would be screaming. And then at the Baptist, I just fall asleep on my grandma's tummy because it was round, and we just sleep. It was a long church, so there was times that I said I read the Bible, but I just couldn't read it, and so I didn't really know who Jesus was. I really didn't know Jesus. I was baptized when my brother was sick, but nobody really told me who Jesus was, and his love, and his forgiveness, and that I was a beautiful person, and that I had meaning and worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So through your background, which you're definitely condensing for us for the sake of time, so there was a lot of things obviously going on in your life, and just trying to get by and doing what you need to do. But when your daughter did go, and you did go to church, was there a message, something? Because a lot of times people go the first time, they don't even remember what it is, but that was something that did stick with you?
Yeah, I was definitely fighting, listening at all. I was a stripper. I mean, I wear shorts, and hair was short, red, because that's my color. And it was the truth will set you free. And I was at that time lying a lot about my life to a man I was dating, and it was my first time I actually lied about who my kids were. I said they weren't my kids, they were my sisters, and made a big, huge story about it. And that time I came home, and I heard a voice, and it was like, you have to get away from the man I was with. I was dating a man, but then I was with a guy that we weren't sleeping together or anything. he was an atheist, and I heard that voice, and I called my cousin up, and I'm like, what is going on? I've never heard this. And she's like, that's your Holy Spirit, and you need to listen to it. And that's when my life started changing after that time.
Tell me a little more about that. What were some of the
so
things that started to happen?
Yeah, so I got with a man named Dell, and he was from a different side of the street. He was the Lever Beaver family, and I was the girl that you don't ever want your son to bring home. And I just fell in love with him, and was still trying to figure out who I was, because I didn't know who April was, and my stage name was Amanda. And so I was drawn to going to church because a lot of people wanted us to break up, and I went into the church and I told a minister that all these lies, that I was from Germany and my kids weren't mine and everybody was out to get me. And when I left, I just felt this weight. So I took my boyfriend to work the next day, and I went back into the church and I said, I lied to you. And he looked me straight in the face and said, April, the truth will set you free. And I don't remember it, but he wrote me a little note saying, I just remember sin coming on you, and how I was, the first time I was faced with my sin. And I went back home and I called everybody up and I apologized, and my boyfriend forgave me. I didn't give him all the truth because I was still scared, and I was like, what is going on? And I had to work really hard on proving people that I wanted to change. And I worked a lot with Christ. I wrote him day after day. So then the first time I went to church, I asked God to show me a sign that he wanted me to change. And my little daughter, Elizabeth, well, she was my oldest, there was a phone call, and I went to her, and it was a phone call about some pictures on a computer. And she told me, Mom, I've been raped while you was at work. And I had a little girl named Alexis, and she was 3, and found out that they were doing child pornography with my children. This guy was, and it was the biggest child pornography bust in St. Louis County 10 years ago. And that's when I knew I needed to change, and within months I changed. There were still, testimonies and that, but I changed, and I married the man that forgave me.
That you've been married to 11 years.
Yes.
We're going to go to a break, and I want to encourage you to come back to Rock On and April's story. Thank you.